when we're talking about the outdoor industry, we think that it's a niche, right? Like it looks like it's a niche. But then if you look at each sport individually, completely different world.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Slator Pod. Today on the podcast, we welcome Martina Russo. She is the CEO of Language Solutions Integrator, the Action Sports Translator, and they have a rare focus on action sports, the outdoor sports industry. Hi Martina, thanks so much for joining today.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me.
What part of the world are you recording this from today? From some like outdoor mecca or?
I am actually. Couldn't you ask? Because I do move around quite a lot, and I am in France around the Annecy Chambéry area for a few weeks. Yeah.
For a few weeks. Are you doing any action sports there or just working?
Yeah, mostly mountain biking because I only have a couple of weeks here. But yeah.
Mountain bike. So that's your kind of outdoor sports of choice, or do you do anything else in that area?
Not really. That's actually my most recent passion because I picked it up last year. But I have been snowboarding and skiing actually since I was like 3 years old. So that's kind of my main thing has been. And also I have been climbing for maybe I don't know 7, 8 years at this point. So that's kind of my two main things. And then I picked up mountain biking last year. And I've done, of course, a bunch of different sports as well, kite surfing, but that's my main focus.
Okay, so we're going to have to dwell on this for a second. So snowboarding or skiing or both? Or which one do you prefer?
I started skiing when I was 3 years old because, at the time, snowboarding wasn't that popular even at all. So I started skiing, and then when I was maybe 16 or 17, I switched to snowboarding. And then I kind of never went back to skiing. I kind of switched to the dark side, never went back, so...
Usually the journey is like ski, snowboard, and then back to ski when the knees are kind of wearing out. So I'm still a snowboarder. I started with skiing when I was a kid, and never did snowboarding and never came back. I don't think I can ski actually. All right, so we solved that. Great, and then the climbing. So actual like mountain climbing, like with ropes and all of that, or.
Yeah, I don't know how familiar you are with the different types of climbing, but I started sport climbing and bouldering. I don't know if you know what that. Okay, bouldering. Okay, great. But then sport climbing is when you go to the crag. I'm gonna get really, really technical now, but basically you do maybe anywhere between 20, 40 meters of we call it single pitch. So you have protection in the wall and you go up with the rope, and then I'm getting really technical now. But basically, it's pre-protected, but then you have to put the rope into the wall as you go up. And so that's what I do most of the time.
I have so much admiration for you people. I could not do this. This is crazy. All right, let's go back to business. So I looked at your LinkedIn page. You've done a lot in the language space. So tell us a bit more about the professional side, the entrepreneurial side, and how this all got started.
Yeah, sure. So I did start as a translator, as a freelance translator when I was, 20. As soon as I started university, I did study languages translation. Then I already started working in translation. And then a few years in, I got a bunch of, how a lot of people start agencies. I got a bunch of clients who wanted support in a bunch of different languages. And so at the time, and this is maybe 8, 9 years ago now or more, maybe more. And so I started offering translation services like as a, small boutique LSP where I was the main project manager. And then it grew to add a few project managers. And that was, you might see Moving Words, which is SaaS localization. Yeah. And then 6.5 years ago, I started the Action Sports Translator, which is what I focus on pretty much 100% now. And as a consumer of outdoor sports and as a language translation professional who already had an agency, started an agency, I thought, we need to solve the issue that is plaguing the outdoor industry when it comes to translation and multilingual content. And so that's what I did.
So now you're still running both? You're still involved in both? Or does one absorb more focus than the other?
I'm running both, but with SaaS localization, at some point, TA, I cannot even say the acronym, but TAST, the Action Sports Translator, it exploded really quickly. And so I decided to put all of my focus on it. And then with Moving Words, we still have some clients, but we don't actively go after new ones. And we actually have a network of other language solutions integrators, other agencies that that we work with, then we actually refer depending on who is we think is the best fit.
And so the idea of focusing on that particular segment was that like you had this passion obviously for outdoor sports, and then was it a conscious decision like, well, this is what I would really want to focus on, or did you get some projects and then you felt like, well, I'm kind of the only one that can really do justice to these types of texts, or what was where did you get traction from this? Was it more of a like, okay, we have the business plan and now let's go after it, or did you kind of stumble into it and then it just took off very quickly?
So I didn't really have any grand plans for it. It was more like, I'm a user of this product. I'm a user of this brand. I spend all of my free time and sometimes even my work time. I'll take my laptop to the crack when I'm climbing, you know? So I buy this gear, and because I'm Italian, I'm always, and I'm connecting from many different countries. I'm always getting redirected onto all of these different versions of the brand's websites. And also I do get to see, the marketing materials into a bunch of languages. And I was horrified at what I was seeing. And I thought, you know what, let me just do something about this. And actually then it happened that I was stuck at home with a minor foot injury, surgery, sorry. And so I was injured and I couldn't walk. And then I found out that it was going to be like trade show a few weeks later. And I thought, let me put this time good use. Let me try to come up with something, do a proof of concept and just go to this trade show. And then it just like snowballed and exploded from there.
I love it. That's so cool. So what are some of the unique challenges when you're in this, action sports, outdoor, working with outdoor brands versus maybe more of the, I don't know, maybe the drier kind of, areas, I don't know, banking, legal, finance, all of this type of stuff. Is there anything somewhat unique about this?
So you said you snowboard, right?
Yeah, I do a bunch of stuff, but yeah, snowboard, skateboard, all of that. Yeah.
Actually, let me take a step back. When we're talking about the outdoor industry, where we think that it's a niche, right? Like it looks like it's a niche. But then if you look at each sports individually, completely different world, right? Maybe there is some overlap within board sports, for example. You use skateboarding, snowboarding, surf, maybe. But then the culture is completely unique to each one of those sports. And then not only that, but when we're looking at the sports individually, then you have sub verticals within those sports. So if you're looking at cycling, you have road cycling, you have gravel, you have mountain biking. When you look at the mountain biking, you have multiple disciplines within mountain biking. Climbing, you've got bouldering, trad, sport, alpine, all of that stuff. So that's the first challenge. It's very difficult to, sort of specialize. Sometimes even within the same sports, you have got so many different disciplines. And so all of these disciplines have got their own culture, they've got their own lingo. And so that's very peculiar about this industry. And then why that's also peculiar and why it's challenging is because all of those brands needs to have the authenticity. And that's very unique, I think, in the outdoor industry. Like when you want to purchase and buy from a brand, you become, there is a word which is outdoor sports fans and enthusiasts. And that tells you everything that you need to know about this industry. You need to be in the industry yourself to be able to, and in those sports, to basically help those brands stay authentic. So that's the main thing I would say.
Yeah, you're right. There's like so many subcultures, and I just said I'm skateboarding so I mean, I'm getting a little old for it, but like especially for skateboarding. But there's this whole like 90s skateboarding guys that are still kind of trying it. So I guess that's why I'm still a bit involved. So, but I want to talk about terminology. Which kind of speaks to that niche topic and that subculture topic you talk about. So a lot of these sports are very kind of Anglo-centric, English-centric. I mean, just think about all the lingo in skateboarding, snowboarding, all the tricks. I don't think there's a German word for like, I don't know, McTwist, like all these, like even like in, 1200 or something like that. All these tricks are just English. So, or I used to follow ultra running, like ultra marathon, like also the terminology there. I don't think there's a ton of terminology there in German either, and maybe in bouldering, like you just like very fluently use some of these terms in English. Maybe is there like an Italian word for bouldering, for example? So I guess it's a long way of saying, like, how would you agree that there's a very kind of English dominant side to these sports, and then like to what level do the local languages do the other languages kind of adjust or not to it?
So what we love to say in translation and localization industry is it depends. So it depends on the sports and depends on where the sports was developed or, got the most influence. If you look at climbing, it started probably like in the 70s or so, like in the US, but in parallel, it started, or maybe even earlier, probably like, some even decades earlier in Europe. So, and in parallel, we have these sort of movements, and also they're quite different, to what was happening in the US, where you have the term dirtbag. I don't know if anyone familiar with climbing was listening to this. We know what I'm talking about, which originates from the US and like Yosemite, and why it was like something that you aspire to be a dirtbag. But then in Europe, we have very different types of mountains, and it's, in parallel, it's developing, and we've got very, very local ways of saying the same thing. And even if you look at, I know I'm Italian, so I can tell you, I learned to climb in Italy. So I learned all the terminology. And even if you look at a country, you have multiple ways of calling a single hold, like a jug, which is a type of climbing hold. Just in Italian, I can find, I don't know, 6 different ways of calling it. So yes, but then when you look at sports like snowboarding or skateboarding, you're right. That was or surfing, that's been popular for much longer than climbing. Climbing just got into Olympics, recently. But then snowboarding and skiing, that's been for a long time. And so that also shaped how, and also it became more popular in different regions. So that also shaped a lot how some of that terminology. And so we do use that, a lot of the terminology in English, we keep it in a lot of the translations and the companies. And yeah.
Must be very hard to find good translators, good linguists for this. Because I mean, like finding somebody who's like familiar with, I don't know, just the skateboarding terminology and like, transferring it in a cool, insidery kind of appropriate way into, I mean, like, again, German, like it's half of it would just be English. So and like balancing it, like making it not English, but obviously, but like having all these terms that would never be translated, kept in German would be tough.
Yeah, but also you need to think about each language. Like if you think about
Yeah.
French and Spanish, where they don't translate stuff, sorry, they don't want to keep anything in English.
Yeah.
Or you can go even more granular and you can look at the difference between Swiss Italian and Italian, where, Italians, we love to throw English words everywhere. It's ridiculous. But then you look at Swiss Italian and don't like to use English words. So each market has its own peculiarity or peculiarities. And yeah, it takes. And then when you look at copy, even like product copy, it's always a mix of super technical copy, but also a mix of marketing and storytelling. And so it takes, a fine sort of, walking on a fine line.
Well, hence the need for a company like yours, right? Because I mean, somebody needs to figure this out. So also something that we came across when we did some research, like you're avoiding like maybe some other sports, mainstream sports like football, tennis, and golf. Like, why is that? I mean, wouldn't that be a huge market? Also, with football becoming even more popular than it's been.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, but that's kind of not the core of what we do. Every single process within our company is tailored to solve the very specific challenges of outdoor sports brands. And those are quite different from mainstream sports. So we can, of course, we do get inquiries from, golf companies, golf brands, or, different types of sports. But again, we have a network of partners that we think are more suitable for that type of brand. And then we refer them. We just like to keep our core focus on the outdoor and action sports industry.
That's so cool. Very, very deliberate. I mean, then, yeah, I guess, and this is a niche. I guess you don't have too many competitors who are at that level, especially if you're saying like it's not sports as a general. Like you're really focusing on that niche. We have to talk about AI. Everybody has to talk about
Of
AI.
course.
So
Let's talk about AI.
you do human expert in the loop. You do AI in your space. Where are there areas where you obviously work with human experts, and are there opportunities to just deploy AI, and how do you do that? How do you balance that?
We do a bunch of stuff with AI. I like to say that we've got 3 buckets with AI. One is like the agency company side, internal operational side. So that's like, we have our own internal AI program, and that's, just, just that's developed to speed up processes and make things more efficient and just be competitive in the sense that, make help people with decision making and, blah, 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 all of that. Then we have the content creation and copywriting, because we also help brands create copy from scratch typically in English, but also different languages. And then we localize it. So we also help with, we also leverage AI there. And then the AI in localization, which is a very different beast, because in localization, we have all these different technologies, which are so niche and they're so specific and they're so elaborate and evolved. And so, of course, we use different TMSs, but then we obviously have access to their solution, the AI solutions that come with them, but also we are developing our own, our own solutions, which basically connect, also leverage what the TMS infrastructure, let's say.
So are there like some high volume areas where AI would just be enough? Are there pockets within the action sports industry where there's like some just massive repository of content that you could just use AI on? Or is it all, I mean, you said there's two components, right? There's the technical part and the more marketing part, but maybe in the technical part, are there pockets of high volumes or are there not really?
Yeah, I mean, the product copy, we're talking about hundreds and maybe thousands of products per year. So, but the thing is that everything is typically very, very marketing oriented and very, so
Right.
I mean, this is the easiest. Okay, let me take a step back. The most of the work that we do is creative marketing transcreation. So we are testing it right now. We are testing AI against those types of projects as well. But definitely like our clients are after, the super authentic, super, I'm going to use the word high quality, even though we all know that quality has got different meanings and criteria, but super, let's say authentic experiences for the consumers. And so a lot of what we do is that. And so the easier, let's say the lowest or lower hanging fruit for AI implementation is product copy. However, we wouldn't necessarily not have, a human layer at this point anyway. And also other stuff like FAQs or, all that sort of more less creative content. That's definitely something where we can leverage AI a lot more. And with our client, it hasn't really come up that they don't want to have like a review from the human expert so far.
In the mainstream world, there's things like the Olympics or the World Cup or things like that. In the outdoor sports, I mean, are there any major events? I mean, the areas that I know, like UTMB for ultra marathon or X Games or something. Is that something that influences your volumes? When does kind of the localization for these types of events start? What events are you kind of focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, again, here it's a long list of events, but of course you mentioned the UTMB, so all these really big ones. In surfing as well, the World Surf Cup. I don't surf actually, so I don't even know the exact name of it. But all these like bigger events, typically what happens is that the brands need to have some campaign copy, which is relevant, and so we're talking about transcreations and more, very high impact copy that sometimes get printed or big focus on their homepage, and maybe it's also connected to a collection. So this usually starts to get prepared quite a long time in advance. But as it often happens with localization, the localization part does get pushed a bit like last minute. So it's always like, a new department requested something and this other department requested something else. And the localization maturity within outdoor sports brands is usually quite low. Yeah. So I think a lot of the work that we do is very process driven as well. Like we have to help brands go from where they are to, a more sustainable setup that makes more sense with the goals that they want to achieve. And so, that's a lot of the work that happens around campaign work, also propelled sort of by those types of events.
So like the classic from spreadsheet to some type of TMS, some type of language tech platform, huh? So do you work, like when we say the outdoor industry, I mean, or lifestyle, right? We're probably typically thinking about brands like Solomon or whatever, Burton or something. But I think we came across a client of yours called Skull Candy, which is headphones, right? So for action sports. So like, is there a broader ecosystem of companies you are servicing, not just the actual brands that do the sports gear, but maybe headphones? Is there other examples like this?
To be fair, that's one of the probably the only sort of brand that we work with, which is not strictly like either a manufacturer of we call them like soft good or hard goods. So soft good would be like clothing and gears and accessories, and then you've got hard goods, which is, I don't know, the skis, the surfboards, the snowboards. So so typically we work with these two types, but also we work with digital interfaces. So think about apps that you use to, I don't know, record your outing or so like apps,
Strava.
basically.
Yeah,
like Strava, Camus, these types of companies.
And then the way these brands obviously sell their products, a ton of it is e-commerce, right? So I guess they're heavy users of like Shopify or Amazon. Are you localizing on these platforms? I would assume as well, and that adds to the complexity.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's ever done any Shopify localization will know what a pain it is. I actually
that's a good quote. That's
yes, it is. I mean, I'm downplaying it as well. I used to work with Shopify, so I'm very familiar with them as an ecosystem. I used to be, I work with their content team. I was internal to a lot of their, the Shopify ecosystem. And a long time ago, I also used to run a Shopify store. So I'm extremely familiar with the whole ecosystem. Unfortunately, platforms like Shopify, and I'm going to make an example of Shopify, but this is often rings true for a lot of those platforms, are not really localization friendly. And this means that, you can there might be a connector, and this is true for e-commerce platforms, but also content management systems. But yeah, let's just say that it takes a lot of integrating, connecting, technology management, stakeholder management. Again, remember this, especially like outdoor brands don't have that like such maturity when it comes to localization. So there is also a lot of stakeholder management on their side from a lot of operations management. So yeah, it is complex.
Wasn't the Shopify CEO recently on the record that everything's going to be AI and that their like translation would be one of the first things that would go? I'm trying to look that up, but yeah, I think we even wrote an article about it maybe like a couple of months ago that they're saying like, oh, everything's going to be AI and translation is one of the first things we're looking at for AI. But yeah, in reality, it's always harder.
Yeah, but also like you need to remember that the Shopify platform is built in a certain way, but then the way that the merchants can do translation through the platform is a completely different system. So I don't exclude it will be easier for them to deploy AI. They have been translating the Shopify backend for a long time, like when they provide the theme for brands to build upon. That's usually comes with a degree of localization in a bunch of languages. But then the way that they make the platform localization friendly or ready for merchants is a completely different story. So that's where they have a long way to go if they really want. They are like, you need to remember as well, like this is a US or North American centric company. And a lot of the time they don't think in terms of localization or making like, localization friendly. I actually learned not too long ago that the original story of their CEO setting up or founder setting up Shopify was because he wanted to sell snowboards. So I was setting up, we were setting up like a dev store for like just try some new workflow, and we selected like the default theme, and he came up with a bunch of snowboards, and I was like what the hell? And our Shopify guy was like, oh yeah, this is because da 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 da. So I thought that was quite funny, quite interesting.
Toby was a snowboarder. Okay. Yeah, I guess the age would make sense, like 90s. Yeah. So you recently posted on LinkedIn that you had a pretty good first start to the year. I think revenues are up 30%, you said, and you listed 5 or 6 kind of factors that drove growth for you. Very interesting themes. Great LinkedIn post. I encourage everybody to go there. But for those who just listen to the pod, like summarize that. What are some of the things that helped you have a good start to the year?
It's actually funny because that actually we've looked at the QA growth so far, and it's way stronger than 30%. It's like somehow it's it's quite funny because the growth that we had until this year, we have been doubling turnover basically every year, like year on year. So that's been quite interesting. And this year, it looks like we're still like growing quite a lot, but the way that we're growing is a bit different because AI, also the outdoor industry is going through like a bit of a rough patch, with the tariffs. I'm sure that you have been exposed to the tariffs imposed by Trump's administration in the US across all industries, but the outdoor industry is also having a bit of a ripple effect from that. And then, like the outdoor industry had like a post-COVID boom, and then it's kind of come down a little bit. And, all these different things are happening. And so we are seeing a completely different way that we are growing, but we are still growing. And so for us, I think we are very different from many LSPs or LSIs, language solutions integrators. We operate in a very, very different way. And I think just the extreme focus that we have is what really allows us to grow still and to sort of thrive. Hopefully for still some time, still a long time within a landscape that is like changing so fast that it's really difficult to even stay on top. And also, it's not just that, but we are staying on top of it, but also developing and investing quite heavily into all these we are embracing the new technologies and investing in the new technologies and making sure that, we can offer a service, like we can evolve with the industry and what's going on around us. And then, we are, like I said earlier, every single one of our processes is designed to solve the specific challenges of the outdoor industry. And so for us, like everything that we do is around those challenges. And so that really helps us, helps our clients.
I think, if I may speculate, I think it takes courage to focus on a very specific niche and stick to it. I think a lot of LSIs are tempted once they have the first maybe growth slow down or maybe even kind of stagnation. They're like, oh, we need to expand. We need to go into other areas. That's where growth is. But I think, the market's so big, and even in the niche, the market can be very big, that you can grow by just being the very best at your particular niche. I think it's still quite a big opportunity, but it takes courage. I think a lot of LSI owners would be a little afraid of betting exactly on one specific area. And it looks like for you, this it has paid off so far, and seems. It's a big area. It's a big area. If you can do this globally and you can get clients from Europe, Asia, US, I think there's still a lot of uncharted territory even in your niche.
There's a lot of stuff that we can do and a lot of things that we like. Especially we have started off by working directly with the bigger brands. Like we were kind of lucky actually, but we as we started into the industry, of course it was like a big deal of strategy, but also we were picked up, found also and contacted by really big brands already. So that helped us, with that. We do work now with like some of the biggest brands in the industry. We also work with some mid-sized brands, smaller brands. So for us, we don't really want to, I've got a bit of tunnel vision with this, but in a good way. I don't want to get out of our niche because that's how we build a name for ourselves. We build a reputation for ourselves. Also, you need to think our vendor management department we have created a recruitment machine, which is specifically tailored to recruit people like professional translators and writers within the outdoor industry. So, as soon as we get out of there, then the focus gets lost a little bit and then it's more difficult to. And also this creates a very unique culture within the company and a very different, I think, relationship with the clients as well, that I don't think any other LSP or LSI, is able to offer.
So when you guys do like team meetings, do you go on like 50K runs or like snowboard outings, or what do you do?
Yeah, we're fully remote, so we do like get-togethers, and actually we did our like one in May, just then, and we got everyone to Austria, our production team actually. So around, I think we were like 12 people. A few people were missing, but most of our production team from translation, and then one person from the content department. And we rented this like massive villa in the Austrian Alps, and then we went mountain biking and hiking. We had like a climbing wall inside of the villa. So yeah, that's it. That survived.
Yeah, that's great. Before breakfast, somebody climbs up and boulders around at the villa.
Some of the rooms you could only reach by climbing. So, very on brand.
That's amazing. Cool. Is it super hard to get these linguists? Like, do you need to spend a lot of time educating them still, or is there like a community of linguists that you can tap into that's kind of ready made?
Yeah, we have built database or like a pool of around 700 translators now, and so we do have let's say a ready-made pool of specialists that we work with. But then again, you need to remember that each sports and each vertical is more granular. So, we might need to find, the Finnish kite surfing professional translator. And that can become difficult. And this is like a case in point that I actually wrote a post about on LinkedIn as well. We were tasked for one of our regular clients to translate a climbing device manual for sport climbing. Okay, very important detail. Into, I think, 26 languages. Some of them were Maltese, Icelandic, and I don't know what else, Luxembourgish, I don't know what else. And you can think of like Malta. I think there are like 500,000 people who live in Malta. And how many of these are going to be professional translators and how many of these are going to be climbers? Well, we did find them. We did find 2 of them and we were able to complete the project. There's one person doing this, you know what I mean? And this also becomes, we have these like extensive personal networks, which are going to be difficult to replicate if you're not in the industry yourselves, right? So yeah, it is difficult, especially when you go to like Asian languages. I mean, you can think like most, I don't know, Chinese translators, they don't specialize, or even like, and then you look at, we also had to do something with Arabic, which is not a very requested language for outdoor sports. And then you've got, you know, how many people rock climb in Arab-speaking countries? And they're professional translators. Not many, you know, so it's very difficult to find them. But yeah, we don't settle for anything less, and that's like what also makes us unique. We invest into that type of, you know, operation, and so that's what we can. That's why we're able to do that.
China should have a pretty big scene. I mean, when I lived there, it's already 15 years ago. There was kind of an incipient trail runner scene. So the trail running events got bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, I'm not sure about rock climbing, but there's a ton of mountains in China. So
yeah,
should be a bigger scene there as well. So priorities for the rest of the year 2026, double down on that niche. Any tech priorities? What's on the agenda?
Yeah, we are still like investing and developing our AI, you know, solution, both for localization, but also we are doing that like for content writing and copywriting. It's just different in the way that it works and the output that you get. So like completely different departments on our side, but that's the main thing. And just investing basically in technology. Also, we are like hiring for a few different roles in that department. And yeah, I think that's like the main thing. And then just also being able to, you know, see how the outdoor industry as well as the localization industry are developing and kind of being on top of it. I think our main focus is always to make sure that our clients are able to do what they need to do, which in most cases is deliver those types of experiences to their customers, including ourselves. You know, we are on that end of the spectrum as well. And so everything that needs to be done to get to that point, that's what we always make sure that we are working on and investing on in too.
So for getting intel on localization, you can come to a Slator con, but like for intel about the outdoors industry, are there like 2 or 3 key kind of trade shows you go to in Europe and maybe in the US? And if so, what are those?
So that's a very interesting question. There used to be a couple of pretty big ones, but now it's the death of the trade show. And so there used to be like these big ones across Europe that were just, you know, attracting like big brands and then the retailers, because the trade show for outdoor sports is you go there, you pay a ton of money, and then you get all the retailers come to you. But now this is kind of, it's been declining for a long time, and the last couple of ones that we went to is just like dramatically going down, and now it's all going to become like a regional trade show. But that comes with like many different challenges. And also, so for us, it's okay because we are so integrated in the industry that we know a ton of people, and it's a little bit easier to also be at these regional events. But it's definitely comes to different challenges. And also now bigger brands, anyway, they have their own showrooms, they have, you know, retailers come to them. And so it's just changing as well, like the landscape.
All right. Well, this was great. Makes me want to go and, I don't know, go for a run or drop into the pool or, you know, like skateboard a little bit. So yeah, thanks so much for taking the time today, Martina. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.